I'd be late to my own funeral if I could. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for hanging in with us. Welcome to the Tuesday night hang. We're a little late, a little 9:30ish, 9:35 action. I think we broke, we're record breaking in that regard of we like to start late. So anyway, welcome. Thanks for coming to make the hang. We're our weekly webinar. That's a very fancy word for our little get together uh, advanced Zoom hang. And tonight we have one of my favorite gentlemen. He's going to be joining us. We spoke to him earlier today. He's going to be joining us. The wonderful Ed Sargent. He's going to hang with us, and so we're excited about that. So welcome everybody, and we're sorry we had some gremlins. And the gremlin tamer tonight is none other than our favorite friend Stephen Wright in LaGrange, Illinois. Hello, Stephen. How are you making out, gremlin tamer?
They've been extra punchy tonight.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah, man, it's jazz. You're supposed to start late.
Yeah, it happens,
And
you
the
gotta want.
and the one person you don't want to start late in front of, Ed.
No, Ed's like, come on, let's get the show on the road. Let's make it happen.
Yep.
Hit. But then, when still to this day, when I hear hit, I look around like, oh shit, I gotta go, man. I gotta get on the stage.
Yep. First time I met him, he threatened me if I didn't get you to the bus by 6 a.m.
Oh, he don't mess around, bro. That's why he still works.
Exactly.
He's got it together.
Yeah,
So
man.
yeah. So what happened tonight? We have some server issues or what? What's going on over there?
Yeah, the service that we use to send things out to all the different providers seems to be having some issues. So,
of course,
I tried my best to not send you guys something that's less quality. So
yeah,
I'd rather
we could do a
late.
normal. Yeah, well, we could do a normal Zoom call, but we Steven is a perfectionist and I'm just a show off. So between the two of us, that's why we're late. So we apologize. And even you were saying earlier, even your mom's gonna bust your chops because you're late. I love it. Hi, Mom.
First comment in here. Been waiting.
I love it. It's
I
great.
see you there, Mom.
Well, that's her job, man. It's all
exactly.
Good. Well, good, man. How you making out otherwise? Everything good over there? I like your choice of hats, by the way.
Yeah, I
busted
out.
Maynard Ferguson.
Yeah, I busted out the beanie for the night.
Yep. Maynard Ferguson, Ed Sargent designed at the merch table on those many shows with Maynard. That was one of Ed's designs. Very, very cool. So I'm sure you need it in Chicago. It's probably minus 29, right?
Yeah, we got snow today. So.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I won't tell you how nice it was here in St. Pete.
You already did. You sent me a picture from your boat.
That was yesterday. It was a little chilly. I had to put a long sleeve shirt on. It was cold.
Right.
But whatever. Anyway, so good, man. So we have nothing really new to report. We had a great hang last week. Played a little bit. We got this is episode 8 of season 3. We got 2 more episodes. So stay tuned. Sunday, Monday, we're going to have we'll introduce who we're having next week. And then we're going to probably end on season 3, episode 10. We'll do 10 episodes like we normally do. We'll end that December 8th. And we have some plans for that. That should be really fun. So keep an eye out for that. And then we'll regroup. Yeah, it should be fun. We'll regroup and figure out what we're going to do over there. And you have some Venmo and PayPal stuff, which is kind of cool. Kind of keeps the stream going, right?
Yep, up in the top left-hand corner. You guys don't have to, but those little icons are there if you feel like supporting the stream.
So we can start on time. So if you, which tells us we need some donations because we're always late. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, so we can get a service provider that works.
Yeah, I mean, none of them work, man. It's pathetic. No, actually, we've been very fortunate. We've had some wonderful donors, and my Stephen and I thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, and we also have some merch too, correct?
Yep. Yeah, you guys can see right underneath the PayPal and Venmo stuff. There's a link, and there's T-shirts available, and then obviously Carl's normal stuff that he has through his website at fishmusic.com. So it's FICH music.com.
And no obligation. If you can, great. not, we understand. We just throw it up there because it does help our servers out and tries to get a little bit more streamlined. But
Exactly.
that being said, talking about streamline, I know everybody's been waiting patiently to hang out with our friend. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our friend before he comes out here. Is that good by you, Stephen?
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it to it. So anyway, I usually, it's funny because every week that I have somebody on, I give it a lot of forethought, and I actually write down bullet points on my computer of things to talk about prior to the guest coming. And I ran out of, man, my fingers were getting tired. I started typing, and I think a lot of these things I'm going to talk about with prior to Ed coming, I'm just going to improvise. And because, man, I've been very, very lucky, and I've been very close to a lot of people that have been on these past episodes. So that's wonderful. Very close to a lot of people have been on. We've had good fortune of having a lot of wonderful people come on here and been very close. But there's a brotherhood with Ed that can't really be explained. So, a lot of these things I'm going to fly off the cuff. Also with the brotherhood, I think a lot has to do with, I first met Ed when I was very young, when he was very young. And it's kind of ironic, but Ed to me was an idol to me, as well as the idol I was going to check out, which was the late great Maynard Ferguson. I was going to a Maynard concert, and Ed was like an idol, and he was very tight with Maynard. And why I idolized Ed so much when I was younger is, man, he treated thousands of people. I've seen it firsthand. He would treat thousands of people like a friend that he would know for years. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. You always felt a connection with him. I've seen him do it with a lot of people, man. Everybody. He has that personality. So that really, my dad and him really loved each other. And so that's the brotherhood that I can't write it down. I just got to kind of talk about it. So that's when I was really young. I remember running into Ed at the Blue Note in New York City. This is going back, man, in the 80s, early 80s, I want to say. Ed got went to school as a percussion major, a wonderful percussion major. And he shortly got out of college and went on the road with the great Maynard Ferguson. I'm sure Ed will talk about some of this stuff. Ed hosted Maynard Ferguson's band as a concert at the college, at the University of Tennessee in Martin. So, thanks to Stan Mark, the lead trumpet player, Stan Mark's watchful eye, Ed and Stan had a nice friendship. And Ed, when he graduated, went out with Maynard and started out with Maynard as a personal assistant, which is a valet. He was his valet, and ended up being Maynard Ferguson's road manager, production manager, producer, bus driver, all around guy that made everything happen. That was Ed. He made everything happen for give or take a quarter of a century, which is amazing. I mean, a quarter of a century, man, or maybe even longer. He was with Maynard until Maynard ultimately passed away. Ed was there. Ed is a beacon of light, humor, and serious. He's as serious as a heart attack when he needs to be. And I really think Ed is an exact, I wouldn't say exact mirror, but he's a mirror of our idol Maynard Ferguson. Maynard dealt, man. When he was serious, he played and he took care of business. He had a beautiful light sense. He was a very warm, lighted person, and of course his humor. So that's Ed, man. To say Ed lived and breathed the MF touring life would be an understatement. In my humble opinion, if it wasn't for Ed and his talent, I don't think Maynard would have toured as much as he did. Those two were like two peas in a pod, man. As well as recording as much as he did, as well as being very active. Maynard was very active all the way up to the end. Maynard and Ed had a simpatico, and they thrived together for years on and off the road. And I'm just happy I got to be a part of that for on and off for 12 years. I'm very fortunate, and that shaped my life, and I got to thank Ed for that. If that wasn't enough, that could be a whole web series alone. But if, as a true chameleon, no pun intended with the Maynard fans, but as a true chameleon, man, Ed is, let's jump on a tour with Hard Rockin' Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. He's going to correct me, I'm sure, but I think it's been a close to 15 years, if not longer. He's been with Joan Jett, wonderful Joan Jett. And he's a, integral part of her team, man. He really is. And she's a hard rocking girl, and Ed's taking care of business, man. Not only is he doing that, but he also has, he's giving back. He's also at the University of Tennessee in Martin, his alma mater, and he has a beautiful series. It's called the Ed Sargent Guest Artist Series. And he's very busy doing that. Pandemic wise, he's doing some things virtually. The wonderful Dr. Julie Hill, Ed works with, and she's wonderful. And they work together doing some Zoom stuff. I actually did Keeping the Beat. That's one of Ed's shows that he does with Dr. Julie Hill. It's wonderful. And when the pandemic comes to be passed, Ed will talk about, he's going to have his guest series. So a lot of exciting things for Ed. He's always keeping busy, honestly, if it wasn't for Ed believing in me, I don't think I would have had all these opportunities in my life to travel and have as much fun as I've had. So ladies and gentlemen, enough about me rambling. Let's bring him in. Let's say hello to Mr. Ed Sargent. Let's see. Is he around? Where is he? Can't hear you, Ed. We have a little gremlin still. Still no audio.
There we go. We should be good.
How you doing, Carl?
Hey!
How you doing, baby?
What's happening, man?
All good. How you doing?
Man, you got a hat on too. Must be cold up there, man.
It's keeping my head warm.
What's going on, bro? So happy you're here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Carl. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, buddy.
I tell you, man, I started writing some stuff down and I just kind of got lost in it, man. And honestly, if it wasn't for you believing in me and a million other cats, whether it be them in management and touring. I mean, Kevin Meads played trumpet, but now he's doing wonderful as an agent for William Morris. You've took so many people under your wing, whether it be musicians, audio engineers, bus drivers. I mean, amazing, man. And thank you. All I can say is thank you.
It's been a lot of fun, Carl, as you very well know. Our roots run really deep. I met you when you were like 15 years old, and I still have cassette tapes that you used to bring out, when Charlie would bring you to the gigs. And you guys would show up 3 hours early, and you would help me, through the course of the afternoon. I'd put a laminate around your neck, and you would shadow me and whatever I needed. But I think you got it then. It's about being on the scene, get your foot in the door, just like I did with Stan Mark, when I wanted to be a part of that scene. What am I willing to do? I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And you had that same attitude. And I told you when you were a kid, I can't hire you until you learn how to play. You play that trumpet, you learn how to play that trumpet, I will hire you. I promised you then, and I did. And that set the stage for your career. And like, Maynard used to say, when you leave my band, go and let me talk about you and make me proud that you were on my band. And so I would, I talked to you in Memphis the night that you got Billy's gig. I was proud of you like a father, I saw where you came from. I knew you went in for Billy's audition, and I knew in my heart, if he just gets to hear him play, he's got the gig, and you did. And I love that. So thank you for that beautiful introduction. 13 years with Joan, by the way.
13. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I started with her in 2007 after Boss died in 2006.
Okay.
I took 6 months and worked with Stevie Shankman in St. Louis, producing the the live concert that we did, the tribute concert for Maynard with all the guys, Wayne and Walter and you and Eric and everybody for that post tribute concert and video, and got that out, and then took a little time off, and then got the call to go out with Joan on the Aerosmith tour.
Yeah. That's okay.
2007.
2000. Now it's coming back, because if you remember, I was living in Baldwin, Long Island. I remember you got the call, and you and I don't know if Stephen got to we're let's go back. Not only are we into music, but Ed and I we have two major things in common too. And one thing I kind of left out, one of the bullet points that I wanted to talk about is, we traveled the world and played music, but we ate like kings, and we fished every water hole and ocean around the world.
Yes, we did.
We did. That's what we love. We like to eat. We like to
New
fish.
Zealand. Yeah. The Coosa River in Gadsden, Alabama. Remember us going out on that?
Woo! Catfish. Yeah. There's a barracuda. You and I with a barracuda in the Gulf of Mexico.
That's right. That's right, baby.
There's Brent Carter and you with a fluke. Yeah, man, we caught some fish, bro. We caught some fish. And we still are catching.
Yes, we did. But, good one, Stephen. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, you got some fishing
and
shots.
Brent Carter.
Brent Carter, wonderful. There's a nice little tuna. Back in the day on my small boat.
Yes, indeed.
We caught some fish, bro.
How about that?
But I remember
yes,
I was living in Long Island, and you saying, hey, I got this Joan Jett thing. And she was from Rockville Center in Long Beach, which was in my neighborhood. Right. And we had some Indian restaurants. Right. So I remember, you come and hang and fish with me. So I remember the whole thing now. So it's 13 years, and you come and hang, and we'd eat and fish. And that's when you started the Joan gig, right?
Yeah. I was at your house 2 days after I got that gig, because remember, nothing had really been put together on that Aerosmith run.
Correct.
So I came and sit at your table in your kitchen for about 5 days straight.
Yep.
And put that tour together.
He was at my buses. Yeah, I learned so much that time too, because it wasn't a jazz thing, man. So like here you are dealing on my kitchen dealing Aerosmith and Joan Jett. And it's hysterical, because 2 days prior to that we were fishing like kids, and now you're
I know.
It was so funny, man.
It was crazy, man. It was.
Others. Yeah. No, it was wonderful. And you pulled it off. 13 years later, here you are, man.
I must say, coming from that jazz world, jumping off of the deep end into that whole rock and roll environment, it was different. It really was.
That's putting it mildly. Yeah.
It's kind of the same vehicle, but just different nuts and bolts that you're dealing with. But yeah, it was good.
Lot more nuts.
Yeah, occasionally.
Well, actually, no. Jazz guys.
I mean, you think about the characters we had on Maynard's band.
Yeah, never mind.
Ollie, Earl, and Lash, and people like that. Come on.
Yeah, Wally. Oh my God, Sal.
Yeah. Oh. And the turnover rate with Maynard's band was so, it was fluid.
Look at that shot.
Oh my God, yeah, that's us. It was a very fluid personnel and turnover rate, because so many of the guys that come through Maynard's band were so active in so many different areas. Teaching, playing, recording, opportunities that come along. And that's one thing Maynard loved and encouraged, because it got young, new, fresh talent and fresh blood and fresh writers in the band, and he could experiment like a good ball coach and put guys on the field at different positions, playing great things, where, you were such a great blues player, but you had great fingers and you had great high note chops. And, in terms of through the years, not a lot of guys on trumpet came down and had the exchanges downstage with Maynard that you had. Oh, yeah. You and Walter, just coming to mind, you and Walter were probably the two most fluid, active players that Maynard could play with downstage. And, but in terms of personnel, that's a different mindset, so much more so than the rock and roll bands that are very, established, footprint is set. But then and that was a big difference for me, but yeah, it was good. It's good moving into it.
It's funny because we already hit that. It was one of the questions I was going to ask when we already kind of hit it was, after life of Maynard Ferguson in the jazz world, going into the rock thing, I think we got kind of hit it. It's the same nuts and bolts, but with a couple of different washers and a couple of different left turns and right turns.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's go back a little bit.
I will tell you,
please.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I want to get this in because I don't want this to be lost in that exchange. After being with Maynard for 25 years, I really kind of thought that was the pinnacle musically in my life, that that whatever I did after that, that nothing would compare to that musically in my heart and in my soul. Now Maynard was so special, and he and I had something that, will never be reproduced. But at the same time, my mindset was that musically I've done it and I'll never get there again. But I'll tell you, man, when I come onto the Blackhearts, after about 2 weeks on the band, I was like, oh my God, what this band does and the way Joan plays, even on your show, the guitar player for Billy's band,
Tommy Burns
said,
yep.
Tommy Burns. Yeah. Tommy was on the Blackhearts band and said on your show, Joan Jett is the greatest living rhythm guitarist alive.
Yep.
And what she does, that's what she does. I mean, she's such an amazing timekeeper, rhythm guitar. The way she sings, she's such a natural singer. The way her band plays behind her. Tommy Price for so many years, the great drummer behind her, was a machine. Michael McDermott now, the same machine behind her. Dougie Needles, the guitar player. Yeah.
Great.
I mean,
love Doug.
It's such a portrait every night.
Yeah.
Hal Seltzer, the bass player, Kenny Laguna back on keys and percussion. Sure. I mean, what they bring to the stage every night is, every bit as musical in its own right as what I experienced with Maynard every night, standing on the side of the stage. What it brings to me musically and brings to her audience and her fans was the same thing that Maynard brought to his fans. And I love that. And I was pleasantly surprised. It took me once I got in for a couple of weeks and really started listening to this and hearing the music. And Joan is of that same mindset as Maynard, that old school. She gets up in the morning, she thinks about the gig.
All about the gig.
Her day evolves around what she can do. It's all about the gig. Nothing is going to interfere with her ability to walk on that stage and be the best that she can be. And that's what I love about her, man. I mean, that's right out of Maynard's handbook. Absolutely. That's right out of the professional's handbook.
Yep.
Joan is never late. She's always on time. She's always there to make it happen. I love it. That's why I love working with her so much.
It's funny. I always learn every week. I learn something from everybody, and here's another nugget of things I just learned. The analogy would be, you with Maynard Ferguson, and you join, you go out with R&B, Phoebe Snow, or you go out and do like Sophie P. Hawkins thing or something. It's not. Joan is not fragile. Joan sings and plays like Maynard. She puts it out on the line every time. She's the nuance. The nuance is here. It is. Here's my gig, and her whole band does
Yeah.
that too, and that's what Maynard was, and it was always about the gig, and that's I didn't realize the symbiology was that. It's
Yeah.
really interesting, man. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, she's in your face, man. I mean, what Joan does, playing, singing, presentation, she's in your face like Maynard. No, I mean, in her own right, in her own style.
Yeah.
She comes, when she hits the stage, it's all about that performance till she walks off the stage.
Yeah, man.
She's there for that audience. She don't want to be distracted by bullshit cameramen running across the pitch. She don't want to see cameramen running across. She don't want to be distracted by any of that bullshit. Yep. She wants to be able to deliver her message musically to that crowd every night. And she is focused, man, when she's on that stage. And if something, if something is in there distracting her musically, I'm the first one that's going to hear about it. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
So.
I remember many times back in the day when video cameras were prevalent. Maynard hated video cameras and the red lights in the audience. Yeah, they were new.
Yeah.
And one of the signs, man, if anybody, Ed's thing was, man, if you guys see a video red light camera in the audience, before Maynard sees it, just look in the front of the house and go like this, rolling tape.
Yeah.
And then point.
That's right.
And Ed was like a shark. He'd go and go grab that videotape, get out. Yeah. Yeah, man. So let's go back a little bit. That's wonderful about the Joan thing. I love that story. But let's go back. Let's bring it back a second. Being a percussion major, what got you into MF? What got you to, who introduced you to it, and what got you into that sound?
Oh, my high school band director.
There it is.
My high school band director, we had jazz band in the wintertime after marching band season at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So the first time I ever heard Maynard was by my band director's name was Dan Boone, of all things. And ironically enough, his wife was named Rebecca. So he would have us come in. Yeah, dig it. We would come in to, we would get to school early, and he would play us like Woody Herman, Stan Kenton, Buddy Rich. I mean, he had the, he had the Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and then, but the first time he played Maynard for us was the Chameleon album, and I thought, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I'd ever heard. Wow. And that Chameleon band had some of Maynard's guys like Stan Mark and Mark Colby on it, but the drummer was Steve Gadd,
God rest
Born, Eric Gales. Yeah, it was just an amazing album of studio players plus Maynard's road band. And to me, that was something that changed my life musically and changed my ears. And then after that, I was just like, I was hooked.
Cool.
And so when I left high school and went to UT Martin, we had great trumpet players and a great band director, and we could handle some of these Maynard charts in the jazz band. We did a Maynard show, field show.
Okay.
Because we had a trumpet player, Curtis Housel, that could play this, not Maynard, of course, but
no one can.
He had some high end, and he could pull it off. The Chameleons, the Rockies, the Birdlands, those kind of charts. So my love for Maynard over the first 3 years of school, just kept increasing as he released stuff, and I heard his backlog of stuff, and then that's what motivated me to try to get Maynard to the university, and I went down that path, and as I was learning along the way how booking worked, it took me down several dead end roads that it really came to a point where I had to figure out how to get Maynard there and what avenues I had to take first, and which led me to Stan Martin.
And you're a
Through
junior.
Holton Horn,
And you're a junior in college.
junior in college. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. I managed to cram 4 years into 5, but I was still a junior in the music department. Thank you. So I got in touch with Holton Horns, who was offering Stan or presenting Stan as a clinician.
Okay.
He came in and worked with our jazz band and our concert band. He did the first half of his concert was concert music, 3 concert tunes, played his butt off. And then the second half was with the jazz band. He played like 5 tunes and an encore. Killed it. Big success. Loved the university.
Yeah, man.
And we promoted it really hard in the high school. So we had a full house. Brought him back next year, and he played with the Phi Mu Alpha, which is my fraternity at UT Martin. Our fraternity jazz band, big success. Another sellout. And then that's when he pretty much told me how to get the band to UT Martin, because he wanted to bring. He was like, yeah, we got to bring Maynard here. We played too many colleges. We play colleges all over the country.
Yeah.
Let's get us here. He says, call the booking agent, find out when you can get us routed. And I got the band routed on a Thursday night through like Knoxville. They played at Knoxville, they played at University, and then they played Little Rock, so I caught them coming through on a Thursday night for a song and dance, low money with a really good back end on it. And we ended up selling out the Harriet Fulton Theater, and then ended up moving it to the Field House, which held like 5,000 people. These were like $5, $8, $5 student tickets, $8 adult tickets. We pushed it hard through the high schools. There was probably 50 buses out there. And thanks to the university, because we were able to use their media department. Now, this was before email. This was way before email.
What year? Remember what year this was, Ed?
It's 1982.
There it is. So yeah, email was nothing. I couldn't even spell email.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even thought of then. But they sent flyers to all of these high schools.
Yep.
Did the box office. I had nothing to do with that. So Maynard made a nice big fat nut on the back end.
Yeah. Of
this, plus the guarantee. And that's when, Bruce Galloway and Stan Mark took me, backstage to meet Maynard. Yeah. It was, this really started my career. And they took me back, and Maynard had some Taylor Root in the dressing room, and we had a glass of champagne. She says, "What are you doing after school?" I said, "I'm coming to work with you." Yep. We had a big laugh, Yeah, that's great, man. And then I got the call less than a week later. They fired the valet that was on that gig. I won't mention his name, but at the Hollywood Bowl, at the Playboy Jazz Festival.
Hello.
And I went out and met the band in 1982, in the spring of 1982, for the summer tour, and that started it, and was out for 24 and a half years after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
man, you hit so many beautiful things. I love it. So you come out of college, and just so people, if they don't know Maynard Ferguson, or maybe they know the name, it's amazing when I do clinics and concerts around schools now. A lot of the student body has never been to a Maynard concert, so they've never been in front of the bell of a horn. So that whole thing is a whole different sonic thing. But to kind of bring people up to speed, man, to say it mildly, Maynard was a force, and his band was a force. So now you come out of the university life, and you're in it. You're a valet. You're Maynard's personal assistant. What was that first month on Maynard Ferguson's band like for you, Ed?
Dude, Let me just tell you about the first day I walked onto the bus.
Okay.
And I met the band. We did the gig. We kind of rode. I rode back to the hotel with Maynard in the car. The bus was there the next day. I got him loaded in, and then we're pulling out of the parking lot. I'm thinking, holy shit, I'm here. I was in finals a week ago. Dear God, let me be able to keep my ears and eyes open and my big mouth shut, and don't let me get fired from this gig. I was just so elated to be there, Carl. I couldn't sleep like the first month, even when Maynard was sleeping, for fear that he would wake up and want something or need something.
Really?
I was just like, yeah, totally. And I mean, as the valet, as you very well know, as I hired you before you played the trumpet on his band in this same gig, I think that to really get to know Maynard, like you and I got to know him, if you do that personal assistant, that valet gig, you're the first person he calls in the morning and the last person he sees when he goes to bed at night.
Yep.
That wraps you around his personality, that you either get it or you don't.
Yep.
And most people that we have out there, Kevin, he got it. George offered, he got it. Guys like that really had a love for him and his music.
Sure.
Got what that was, but also got what, the musical, the travel, everything else about it. So that first month on the gig, I was just, it was a 5-week tour. We went to Canada. We did the Montreal Jazz Festival. Never been to Canada, of course. I had to get a passport like on a moment's notice, which you could do then.
Yep.
And just touring on that 6-week tour, it really, I was like, I love band trips in high school. The first band trip I went on, I thought this was the funnest thing ever. How did I miss this? Before, I thought that band trips, there's just the camaraderie of going out and doing a gig. Yeah. Whether it was a marching gig or a parade in Savannah, Tennessee for a Christmas concert. I just thought that whole thing about getting ready for the show, traveling to do the show. That to me, that was very special. And I got to do, 200 gigs a year with Maynard for 24 years. Yeah. That's 4,000 or 5,000 shows, with him. So that was fun. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And Steven's been throwing wonderful pictures up.
I
Steven,
see
how you doing, man?
That picture up now is from India. That's me and Bruce Galloway and John Owens, Bickle, Doug Bickle. And Dan Miller. Dutch. Yeah. Dutch came to UT Martin. Killed it.
I heard. Yeah. I seen he was playing someone's nice Holton trumpet.
Yes. How about that?
Wow. Yeah.
Wonder where that came from.
I don't know where that came from. No, that's great, man. So, exactly. Steven, there's some people here. I'm sure they have some hellos and questions for our esteemed friend here.
Oh yeah, we got quite the hang going on. Really quick, since we're on an MF kick, got a couple of MF alumni in the chat hanging out with us tonight. We got Reggie Watkins, wonderful trombone player.
Reggie.
And
Reggie just got nominated for a Grammy today on an album that he's on.
Oh man, now I'm gonna have to go to Pittsburgh and punch him right in the chop, so he can't play no more. You got your Grammy.
There it is.
Congrats, bro. That's beautiful.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, Reg.
Awesome.
Woo.
Also got Mike MacArthur, wonderful sax player.
Maxter.
Hanging out with us.
Yeah.
He actually says Ed is the epitome of passion, professionalism, and respect, hard work, smiles, shenanigans, and memories. I'm lucky to have that time on the road with you. I learned how to play like me because of Big Daddy and Boss. So,
Love you, Maxter. Yeah, baby.
see, we got a bunch of people. We got the Hang Monster Frank Benici's hanging out. We got the Wrights in
Frankie.
the Wrights in Missouri hanging out.
Missouri.
James Skitka, I can't believe it. The great big man himself, Ed Sargent's with us. Got people from all over. Let's say the president of the regular crowd, Noah, is here. Bobby Kellum, James Skitka, class act. Thanks, Ed. Dan Potts, which we all know, hanging out with us. He gave me a list of questions.
Oh, I'm sure
Daniel.
Dan's got a few.
Yep. So yeah, man, we got a bunch of people. If you guys haven't got your questions in, we'll get through them throughout the night. Let me give you a couple of them here. Let's see. Ed, what would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you ever had for a specific gig or tour with Joan, Maynard, whoever?
Yeah, well, Gabby Kleinsmith comes to mind.
You're jumping ahead. And,
Yeah.
let's go to Germany.
Yeah, Gabby was our GKP Productions in the Black Forest in Germany.
Oh,
Gabby was
sorry.
Gabby had some tours that it took some things away from me I'll never get back. Now I love Gabby, and I worked with her in her office, but she took us into some places like Azerbaijan, Kiev.
Couldn't even spell them.
Places that we didn't have place, you need to go. We did this right after they took down the wall into East Germany. We did a tour of Magdeburg, Ludwig, there were Halle, Germany. These were all East German places that we didn't stay in hotels. We stayed in like farmhouses and things like
Horses
that.
with horses and everything. Remember that farmhouse?
Yeah.
Maynard's riding a horse with his trumpet.
Exactly. And Edo was out.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Edo was out on this tour with us because he basically was our interpreter, because a lot of the East Germans couldn't speak English because they weren't exposed to it like the West Germans were.
Yeah.
So Edo was out, and so challenging. The Gabby Schmidt tours were always challenging logistically because, we could be in Lithuania one night and, Salzburg the next night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about figuring it out, So, yeah, that was very challenging.
Very cool. Let's see. Had a couple other ones here. Where did you go? Julie Hill's actually hanging out with us tonight. You mentioned Julie earlier.
Julie.
Yeah.
Hey, Julie.
Noah is asking, you mentioned a lot of names and people that you've worked with. How does it feel knowing you've made such a positive impact on the careers of musicians like Carl, Maynard, and everybody else from the band that went on to do other things after working with you?
Oh, I'm humbled. You can't write, I'm just very humbled to be able to have been able to be in that position with the talented people that I've gotten to work with. I'll be the first to say that, whatever success that I've had in my life was doing, predominantly to the great people that I got to do it with. You know, it was about the musical talent. I'm in the music business. It's about the musical talent of the people that I worked with, that whatever I did to propel their career to the next step, or to be able to work with them and bring them on our band as a young player, to be able to send them to the next level, or to, you know, along with Maynard, that was always the joy. I loved seeing guys leave the band and go and do great things. Love to always hear what they were doing. You know, I just think the most brilliant players that came through the band, and that, of which there were so many of them, that went on to do to carve out their niche. You know, they took what Maynard gave them musically from the front of the stage and be their own band leader. I've seen it so many times. You know, that to me was the joy, to be able to sit back and watch, and to be just a part of their life and their experience and their growth. Mm-hmm. That was always the joy, and will to my dying day be the joy of doing what I do. You know, I'm a production person. I'm a management person. I make things happen relevant to logistics regarding the shows. I put the shows on. If the guys in that I work with can think about nothing but music, it's all about the music. If they can think about music, and they don't have to worry about the bullshit and the travel, yep, the reservations that we had to rebook, the flights that got canceled, knowing that they're going to get on a flight that's going to make the next gig, mm-hmm, the trains that run into Paris that get missed, that, you know,
or Italy,
yeah.
Or Italy, Lugano Jazz Festival.
Exactly.
Thanks, Tab.
Yeah. But, you know, it's all about the music. And if the music always comes first, and these guys have nothing to think about but the music, then I've done my job as a tour manager. And I was just happy to be able to work with all those guys.
Mm-hmm. It's very cool. I know that we're going to kind of progress from the start to the end. So this question it kind of takes a little bit of a turn, but it lends itself into the beginning of your career. What's the one piece of technology that you have access to now that you wish you had access to at the very beginning of your career?
GPS. Right? GPS.
Didn't even have to think.
No. Look, if I had a GPS, look, I sit up in the front of the bus Atlas with a map. Yeah, these Atlas, and Maynard would buy. He and I won. Rand McNally. Yep. The first day that they come out, the laminated atlases that would come out. Yeah, exactly. And I would, you know, we would. I slept up in the front of the bus. Maynard was on the right, I was on the left, and I slept there with my atlas. As you know, some of the cities that you came into, especially like Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Toledo was tricky, Detroit, you know, I mean, if they took one wrong turn, if you weren't there sitting there with them on this atlas with a little pin flashlight, you know, here we go, here it comes, here we go, here it comes. Yes, take this, get in your left lane. You know, with these bus drivers, they could cost you 45 minutes on a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Because you just can't turn a bus around that quickly, you know, especially a bus and a trailer. So right. GPS made my life so much easier that, you know, you think about it, the early 80s, mid 80s, you know, the 90s. So long that we didn't have GPS. Even the early stages of GPS was a godsend, because at least you could chart the course, you could see the roads. You know, now, you know, with Waze, where it gives you the opportunity to leave the high frequency travel or the emergency that say there's a wreck or something like that, Waze will chart a different course for you. We didn't have, you know, if that was even absurd to even think of back then.
Yep.
You know, I spent so many nights once the bus driver came in to take us to the next gig, you know, and we may go directly to the show, sleep in the parking lot on the bus, or go to a hotel, you know, check in for 4 hours, clean up rooms for the band, go to the gig, you know, and if you're sitting up all night with the bus driver, you know, getting them up the I-95 on the East Coast, then, you know, you walk into a gig with no sleep, which happens. Yeah.
Happened quite a bit. And Maynard was proud of his Atlas, man.
Yeah.
He was proud. Remember the old, he had 25-foot extension cords for his phones, so he could walk around his room with the phone.
Of course.
And that in his map. Those were his two things, man. It was like, what?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's actually why I keep throwing that picture up, because Carl, this was actually out on the road, and what you're holding is the Atlas.
Oh, that's the Atlas? Oh,
yeah, it's the Atlas.
I wonder what that was.
Yeah, that's why I kept throwing
That's
it up.
Maynard's Atlas or Ed's Atlas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can attest to this, man. Ed, for days, wouldn't sleep back in the early 90s. I joined the band in the winter of 92. And, man, I remember, man, you know, we'd have these 6 to 12 week tours. And, man, you'd go for a week without sleeping because we'd have a new bus driver and he'd be green. He wouldn't be good. And you'd be up.
Yeah.
You know, and then you'd finally get to the point. It was like, I'm driving. I got you. And then show up to the gig. I mean, you made the gig happen, which was amazing. Oh, that wasn't the old Silver Eagle. Nice. That was the Prevost. That was a 45, right? Look at that.
That's the Prevost right there in the picture. But you know, the night I learned to drive the bus was we had a driver that ran off the road and almost wrecked the bus because he was falling asleep. You know, and we were coming into Chicago, and we'd done a long drive in, you know, over 500 miles. But at that point, he was just done.
Yeah.
Now he could not go any far. He hit a wall, and I basically knew Chicago well at that point anyway. I mean, I knew that I was like, I could get, if the choices were me driving and getting us to the hotel as opposed to us ended up in a ditch and killing the band, I was going to get us there.
Yeah.
And the first night I drove into Chicago and ended up in front of the hotel, that's the night I started. You know, I was a co-driver. I actually enjoyed driving. You know, I love to drive the bus, not because I didn't like to when I had to. I like to drive when I wanted to.
Yeah.
So the beauty of being able to drive and being on the insurance was when we would come into a gig, and so many times we hit and run the shows that we left after the gig, I could drive the bus from the hotel to the show, do the show, drive the bus back, and then the driver sleeps the whole time. He gets on the bus, he's ready, refreshed, ready to go. And he drives, he pulls first 400 miles. And then the next morning, if it's 600, 700, 800 miles, then I'll pull the next run, 7, 8 hours, whatever it is, and get us into the next city. And that's the beauty of having two drivers out, because, and then once that Bill Maynard and Paradise Artists figured out that they could book those kind of shows,
California,
I kind of shot myself in the leg.
California, New York.
Yeah. As he says, well, it's only that far on the map, you know? So anyway, it kind of turned the ball around. I created a monster there for myself, but at the same time, it increased the exposure of the band and the ability to do some dates that we wouldn't have been able to do. So I don't think it's all bad.
Yeah, I remember many drives Ed making, you know, I believe it was Arizona, and like Pennsylvania. I remember New Orleans, New Hampshire. I remember stuff like that, like dartboards. It was like, I don't know how we're gonna, just being on a bus was taxing, let alone
Yeah,
having
Seattle,
driving it.
Seattle to Dallas. Seattle to Dallas was a nonstop. Marathon, Florida to Kennebunkport, Maine. Yeah, that was like 14 states. You know, that was a single drive. That was driver, me, driver, me.
Yeah.
You know, taking 8 and 9 hour shifts, and 40 hours between showers.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. That's unheard of. You think the Blackhearts would do a no. It's
on a 40-foot Silver Eagle
Just not
1979 bus that had a van conversion on it before we even had the nice Prevost. I mean, that was
right.
That was amazing too. That you guys converted that bus. It was unbelievable. It was a great conversion. But I mean, I started riding that bus in '92, and it already had probably 3 million miles on it at that point. Tell everybody about you pushing that. We pushed that bus in Florida. Remember, the turbo broke down on the side of 75 or 95 in Florida. Yeah. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, it's 95.
95.
The turbo let loose. We had some, basically baling wire and duct tape. The exhaust let loose on the turbo. It wasn't getting, sufficient air. We had to crank it down, clamp it up. We're on the side of the road. I mean, that bus almost got the best of me. It finally come to a point where me and Maynard had a little come to Jesus moment. It was like, Maynard, they have these great buses at Senators in Corinth, Mississippi. And I think if I'm going to do another tour here, we're going to need to investigate, because this bus, give it all I got. I got nothing else for this bus.
Yep.
We've got all out of this old bag that we can get. It's time to make a change. And then when we dropped a head cylinder out of going into Wilmington, Delaware. We just played a week at Blues Alley.
Blues Alley. That's right.
And we were going up to do a show. Yeah. And we dropped a cylinder out of the bus. It was smoking. I mean, this thing was smoking like a freight train. We were sitting on the side of the road, and it didn't have enough compression to get us up this small hill, much less, if we'd have been out west. So we shut her down. The temperature was running like 225, 230. The engine was about to shut down anyway. So, and I ended up walking back to a 76, which they had 76 truck stops back then. It's about 2 miles down the road.
Was that Scranton or was it Bartonsville? It was
Bartonsville was another, no, this was out of,
this was in Wilmington.
This was going up to Wilmington, Delaware. No, we'll get back to that story though.
Yeah.
And then that's when we decided that, that's when, but that was the final straw for the bus. It was before that in Bartonsville, that our bus driver, Floyd was driving out with us. And, so we left it on overnight so the airlines wouldn't freeze, and it was left on low idle, and it blew a cylinder. And that's when that we had to replace the motor then. So that was Bartonsville, Pennsylvania, right near Stroudsburg.
Yep, I remember sitting
on 80.
On 80, I remember that whole night. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Right at Delaware Water Gap, where Phil Woods and all those great jazz players live, right in eastern Pennsylvania.
Marco Marcinko's there now. And
Marco, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of times too, the way you would route things, if you were sitting in the Northeast, I remember you'd have a hotel in Bartonsville or Scranton. And okay, it was a
Yeah.
Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn.
Yeah, we'd sit at the Holiday
That's
Inn,
right.
and you know, we'd bounce out of there. It was within 3-4 hours of everything.
Yeah.
You know? It was great. It was
Yeah.
smart.
Run out, do the gig, come back there. Had $59 rooms. You know, that sales manager loved me. We would stay there for like 5 days at a time. You know, run out, do these shows,
Yeah. It
make
great.
it work, man.
Make it work. You know. So I'm going to ask you a question before we get a little farther. Because there's a million, I'm sure there's a million questions. What were some of your cherished moments with Maynard? I know there's a lot of them. And I know it's a hard question for you, but just give me something that you're really, that you'll take to your grave, or that just pops into your head right away. A cherished moment with Maynard.
Oh, wow. Well, when Flo died,
His wife.
yeah. Being with him then, seeing the grace and dignity that he maintained
Yeah.
when Flo left this earth was something that I'll never forget, because we both know, and everybody that was on Maynard's band knows how much he loved his wife Flo. And he was an example of a husband. Flo was his girlfriend, even though he'd been married to her for all these years. That was his chick. That was his girl.
Yep.
And he was an example of how to live on the road and love your wife and be true to your wife.
Yep.
And when she died, he displayed an enormous amount of courage, but at the same time, the way he dealt with it was an example of strength to me that I've carried with me as I went through the death of my father.
Sure.
You know, my best friend.
Yep.
You know, and certainly relatives along the way that realizing it's a part of life that you deal with. So that in itself, and also when Timothy Leary come out to the gig, and Maynard and I went to Timothy's house after the show at Catalina's in Los Angeles, and spent some time there, and listening to Timothy and Maynard talk about that time at Millbrook in New York. If I could have had that, I mean, it shouldn't have been recorded, but that moment in time, that like 12 hours
Okay.
that I got to spend with Timothy and Maynard, that was very special as well.
That's beautiful, man.
Kind of on the flip side of the coin, but
Yeah. Wow. Remember that time too? I know you did, because I think Maynard, he hung for a minute, but it was, again, we were in LA. I think we played the House of Blues. And Timothy came out. We had a suite. Maynard had a beautiful suite.
Yes.
And Timothy came up and
across the street at the Riot House.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. And we hung.
And after our gig was Aretha Franklin's birthday.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got out. Our laminates still worked, but Aretha came in, and like Shaq, I remember Shaq and all these guys from the Lakers came out to the gig, and Kobe and yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now go ahead.
No, I remember that. And that was the night too. I think Maynard went back to Ojai late that night, and we all were in a suite. That was when the earthquake.
Yeah.
That same night.
That's right.
Timothy. I mean, it takes Maynard and Timothy and Aretha to have an earthquake.
Yeah. That's an earthquake.
Yeah, that's a big quake. No, those are great stories. I love how it just comes off the top of your head, though, because there's a million stories in Ed's head. I mean, 25 years. These nuggets of things, man, are just great. All shut up now. Steven, how you doing over there, man? You got more for us?
Yeah, we got some more in here. I'm
I
supposed
bet you do.
to.
Hey, you hanging in there, Ed? You all right, buddy?
I'm good, baby. Let's do it.
We had somebody comment that you chose GPS over email. So,
Yeah.
like, whatever. Yep, just putting it out there, you know. Let's see. We had somebody asking if there's a story of you and Carl that's tellable that has never been told.
Well, there's a reason probably why it's never been told. So.
Well, that's why I said if it's tellable.
Well, we did spend a week in Jakarta back in the old days, and yeah, that would be Indonesia, and you know, we yeah, and for no reason other than, you know, those kind of moments are about the road and having fun when you're kids, and it's nobody's business.
Exactly.
I love you for asking.
Actually, no, I'm going to go on. I'm going to go on one of the Jakarta things was one. I was Maynard's valet for assistant, and so I got to Jakarta.
We can tell that one.
I'm going to tell that one because that one is, you know, I shouldn't tell it, but I'll tell it anyway. I had a whole bunch of groceries. I went through hell trying to get these water and bananas, and I got a tuk-tuk, which is basically a bicycle trike. You know, it's like a cab line with tuk-tuks in it. And you know, my fat butt gets in the back, and I get everything situated. And the guy, I tell him we're going up here, and he's not listening, and we're having a problem. The guy starts yelling at me, and got ugly. So I had enough of this guy. He wouldn't let me out. And so I ended up punching him in the back of his head, knocked him out. And I got my stuff and got out of the tuk-tuk, realizing now I have 20 tuk-tuk drivers looking at me and yelling at me. And I see Ed Sargent and the sound engineer, Bruce Galloway, sitting there laughing at me. Actually, you guys were back up. You seen it, right? You seen, because I remember you guys were crying, laughing.
Everything. Look, there's Carl. And you had that look on your face that you get when you're like shooting daggers. And we're like, oh, this isn't good. This isn't good. But when this guy was trying to throw you out of this thing, and when you punched him in the back of the head, he basically went down, and all we saw was arms getting your bags and getting out. So, yeah.
There's a couple.
But Maynard was with us. Maynard was with us.
He loved every second of it, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get him, Carl. Get him.
Oh, I got a great story. This guy wants a story that he probably hasn't ever heard. I didn't have a position for Carl when he came out on the road in a trumpet section.
Yeah.
But I called him. I said, Carl, I need a valet. I need somebody to take care of Maynard. I fired the valet that was doing this, not for any reason I can share. I don't even remember who it was, but I needed this position filled. And I knew Carl, A, loved Maynard, and B, this could be the opening to get him in the section. So can you do this? Yes, of course. When and where, which is all I want to hear. You know, he doesn't ask about money. It wasn't about money. You know, can you come out and do this gig? Yes, I'll come out and do this gig. So he comes out, and he's with the band 3 or 4 weeks. He's got his horn. You hear him playing in the room. And then Carl is playing in a jam session in the hotel lobby with the college band that hosted us. And Maynard and I get invited to come down. Now, Maynard didn't do this often, where he left the room and come down and did but he would do an appearance, you know, and he sees Carl up there playing this slow blues, and Carl's just eating it up. And he's like, that's Carl. Oh my God. Why isn't Carl in the section? he looks at me. Maynard asked me that and looks at me, and I'm like, well, let me talk to the band leader about that. And then Maynard looks at me and he's like, ha! You know, he starts laughing. And the next day, Carl was in, and then that's when the whole third book of the trumpet section came alive.
Yep. Oh,
so,
wow. You know, I totally forgot about that story. I remember you saying it could be a week, it could be 4 weeks. We don't know. And I was fine with that because I love Maynard. I want to, you know, and I talk about this a lot in clinics and stuff. It's like, get out of your comfort zone. I got to hang with Maynard every day. It wasn't about me playing at that point. You know, God was lucky and Maynard and you came down. I totally forgot about that. I didn't realize it was that session. Yeah, but you made it happen within a day. And I remember you coming to me saying, see, Carl?
Get ready. Get on it.
Yep. So, cool. What do you got, Steve?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. The same thing happened to me, Carl. You know, when Stan Mark called.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, less than a week after I was out of, you know, I'd left UT Martin. I was back in Bolivar. I was at my mom and dad's house. My dad comes uptown, you know, comes to you know, drives 2 miles uptown. I'm sitting up at the Sonic or something. My dad says, this fellow named Stan Mark calls and says you need to call him right away. So I blast back home, give him a call, you know. Bruce Galloway's going to call you. Kim Ferguson's going to call you. I'm like, I can't believe this. Really? Is this, you know? And then I have a plane ticket out of Memphis 2 days later. That's how it's how it happened, you know?
That's it. I remember when you called me, I'll even go back one farther. I remember when you called me, I just did Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra in 92, the winter. And I got the gig as with Wynton Marsalis. I got the gig as a stage manager, and Wynton heard me play. And I played in the trumpet section on the fifth trumpet parts. And I remember that tour ending, and I was depressed because they were going to go back out again, and things didn't really work out as far as me going back. They hired a music copyist. I was down on my luck, and you called me. Says, "Hey, man, I got this gig. It's probably not what you want, though. I know you went out with Wynton as an assistant for the stage." I'm like, "When and where?" And you said JFK Airport, New York City, in like a week. And JFK Airport was 12 miles from my house. I remember sitting at JFK Airport at TWA terminal when TWA was still, and the bus coming through and jumping on the bus, being like, "All right, let's go."
Let's do it,
man. Bringing back some memories, man. Beautiful.
There you go. Very cool. Had another one, and I'll kind of paraphrase the best I can here. And actually, I'll throw a personal piece into it too. Is one of the things that I kind of learned from you, Ed, is there's a very fine balance between friendliness, accessibility, and work. And one of the things that this person's asking about is, you know, you guys played at all these schools and colleges and things like that, and were just bombarded every single night with, you know, young trumpet players or young musicians. Everybody wanted to have access to the band and to Maynard and to, you know, and I was one of those people, you know, and actually you're the one that introduced me to Carl, and which I actually found a really cool picture of. I'll pull up in a little bit. But
so Ed's responsible for our friendship.
Yeah. I actually have. Where did it go?
I don't know whether to shake your hand or punch you.
There you go. There's you embarrassing me with a Moten swing solo, and Ed standing in the back of the door watching it.
Yeah, that's Ed in the middle.
Let's do that. Go down. That's great. I love that.
But you know, the question's basically how in your role did you balance the accessibility to the band, because you were the gatekeeper? You know, how did you balance that level of friendliness with the crowd and accessibility?
Wow. I think it has to do with the foundation, which is the gig comes first, and nothing impairs the gig.
Mhm.
So in terms of accessibility, there's a time and place for everything.
Mhm.
You know, we love the fans. We love the people that come out to see the show. But in no regards could you allow that to affect the quality of that show for that particular night. Even with the friends that we had that would come out, that would get special access, because they're let's face it, there are tiers of accessibility to the band that come with familiarity,
Yep.
with family and things like that. So who has actual backstage access? You know, you have to keep the security tight. Even though it was a high school, you had to maintain a level of presence backstage of who's supposed to be back there and who's not supposed to be back there. If there were people that were not supposed to be back there, you have to tell them in the most friendly, kind voice with your security people, thank you, this is an area, you know, that you're not supposed to be in. So you have to control it off the bat, first of all, like that. But then, you know, allow, Maynard has a meet and greet, had a meet and greet before the show. So X amount of people were permitted to do this before the show, and then he would see a certain amount of people after the show. The band had access to go into the house before the show. I didn't try to control or not control the band's access or accessibility to the fans as much as I did pretty much control in Maynard's, because as the band leader and as the principal artist for the gig, it was my responsibility to give him a certain amount of accessibility, but also not inhibit the show. So that's kind of like dancing on the head of a pin on some nights. Some nights were easier than others, but if I ever felt that the show would suffer because Maynard didn't have appropriate warm-up time, you know, appropriate head time, you know, to put his head in the show, then I would shut it down immediately, and then it would all be over. I don't mean that arrogantly by any means. It was just, the show is why we're there.
Yeah. Right.
And if it's not all about the show, then I'm not doing my job.
Yep.
I love the fans, but you know, it's not about access to the fans. We don't come there to access the fans. We come there to put on a show. So, you know, and I'm sure Billy's the same way, you know, in terms of his accessibility from his tour manager. You know, we're there to do a show. We're there to play music for you. You want access, you access the music first. Yes. And then, you know, if there's a moment with the artist, there is, but if not, you know, it's not going to inhibit the show.
Yep. So one thing I'm going to add, it's a great answer. And I'm going to throw something that excuse me for my last of days ago. I should have mentioned this earlier, but some people notice and other people don't. On top of all the duties that Ed had, he also was a wonderful lighting director. And we'd get to colleges or beautiful theaters, and you know, if we had a nice lighting rig, man, Ed was all about making that show very, very special with the special lights. And, you know, Ed could talk more about that, but his lighting direction was amazing and really made visual cues. And Ed would know who would solo, how long the solo was, you know, make the show just very visually beautiful. And a lot of times, being Maynard's valet, Ed was wonderful working with him, because Ed was like Maynard. He would give me enough rope to hang myself. So let's say Ed's doing he's doing pre-lighting the gig. We just finished sound check and he's still fixing his light specials, making my special a nice green one. That's an inside
Only
check.
if you were late.
Yeah, if I was late. No, but you know, trying to make everything right. And I remember many guys would come like, "Hey, I'm Maynard's friend, blah blah blah." At that time, I might have been on a band a couple of years, and you know, you would know pretty easily if these guys were cool or not. And you know, you try again. Ed would say things like, you know, you have to be gracious about it and say in a nice way. I remember many times people trying to get in the rooms, and Ed was just so he knew how to deal with all these situations. So, but well, also what I want to talk about is how did you get into the light thing? Because you were amazing lighting director, bro. Amazing. A lot of people forget about
Thank you.
that. I don't. That was amazing, bro.
Well, one, I loved it. Mark Ratkovich was the lighting director when I first joined the band in 1982.
Okay.
And I saw how he lit the band. And he was a brilliant designer. And we carried lights at the time.
Oh, you did?
You know, we had like banks of these PAR 64 1,000-watt cans, you know, on four corners. That was, you know, but that was 1982. That's when we had the truck and things like that. And he would supplement existing lighting with what we brought. And he and I would hang with him, and he would talk to me, you know, about what he was doing. But it was only, you know, it was several years later that we would get into these places, and I would see, you know, the music was so dynamic in terms of time that as a drummer, to me, I just felt like that the show is an oral presentation as far as what you hear, but what you see. And if what you see doesn't match with what you hear, it takes away from the show. Yeah. So I would hang out with these tech directors at these different schools, and I could, you know, there were a lot of different schools along the way that I can't even name, but tech directors that I would get with, and I got to learn these consoles, all of these different lighting consoles, because every console is different.
Yes, sir.
And then I did a Japanese tour with a brilliant guy whose English was very bad, but at the same time, I learned so much about, you know, the technical side of lighting. I knew I knew colors, I knew gel, I knew texture and conditioning that came with the music. It was about trying to enhance the music, never being a part to overshadow the music, not to take away from the music, only to enhance it. You know, okay. But you do things like Sweet Baba Sweet.
Yeah.
Those kind of things, you know, that lend itself to lighting and the dynamics of lighting. And you think about it when you're laying in bed at 4 o'clock in the morning on the bus about how to backlight Maynard's silver hair, you know, with this big, beautiful orange glow as he's singing Om Sai Ram. I mean, it's things like that really brought me as a lighting director into my own. So I love lighting the band. I love doing lighting, and I got to do it for, you know, 20 years. So I don't get to light Jones band, which is a shame, but I've got a great LD. Her name's Annie DiBiase, and she's Annie's amazing. Great. And I get to watch her.
Annie's cool.
Annie.
Yeah.
From Long Island.
Yeah, Long Island Annie. Yeah. She's cool, man.
Yeah, it's very.
I like Annie. Man. Yeah. I didn't know she was the LD. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Oh yeah.
She's and just
she's a lot more technical than I ever was. Yeah.
Really?
I did tell her about the green spotlight when guys would be late for the band. She thought it was hilarious.
Get that green, Mr. Green spotlight, boy. Woo.
Yeah, for your introduction, Stephen, if you were late for the bus, I would pick you up in green. You know, there's nothing that looks worse.
Nope.
You know, on your introduction.
That's hilarious.
Have a green spotlight. Yeah,
that's great.
Get people on time, so I thought it was great.
And it's funny that you mentioned the Sweet Baba Sweet, because I was actually going to bring that up. I think one of the things that always stood out to me over and over again, and obviously the music was the number one thing, but out of every show I ever went to, one of the most effective pieces was that 3 to 4 seconds where the lights didn't come back on at the end of Sweet Baba Sweet. And that 3 or 4 seconds where you had the energy of a Maynard show, which was ridiculous if for anybody on that had never got the chance to see it live. There was just such an energy in there. And for that 3 to 4 seconds, for the energy to be completely sucked into silence was always unbelievable.
Yeah. And well, he closed that tune with the bell. Mm-hmm. 3 hits of that beautiful bell.
Prayer bell,
And bringing everything to a slow diminish to an absolute dark. And I loved it because the audience would never blow that ending.
Never.
They'd sit there and soaked it up, and only until I brought the lights up on stage. Then, thank you for appreciating that. That was one of my favorite moments of every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, sure.
What else you got, Steven?
Jim is asking if you guys have ever played the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington. Really good buddy of his runs the lights for all the shows there. Didn't know if you guys had ever run into him. That's more of a personal question. But
Ed, you play there?
With Joan, we played the Emerald Casino, which is right beside the Tacoma Dome, which is a huge, huge casino. I remember a few years ago we did it. Well, it was several years ago. We did a New Year's Eve show there. I can't, we may have done it on the Aerosmith tour. That's ringing a bell because we did so many of those shows up in the Northwest, but it escapes me.
We got a couple thank yous going out to Ed. AJ Nestor and James Skitka both shared their opportunities of driving MF to dinner or to and from a show. AJ says hanging at Soundcheck in Woodbine, Pennsauken, New Jersey.
At the Woodbine Club. Yeah. Yes.
He says Ed got me to drive MF to and from dinner. Never drove so carefully in my life. Thanks. And then James Skitka says Ed let me drive Maynard to his hotel once at a show in Philly with Keith Fiala. Was very honored and nervous driving that night. Never forget it. So a couple thank yous going out there for Ed.
Love it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Through the course of the afternoon, it was important if we were staying in town to get Maynard out of the gig. He's done the show, get him out. He shouldn't have to wait for the bus. But unlike, kind of the current situation, I don't have runner vans. I didn't have runner vans back then with Maynard, that were sitting there waiting. As soon as he said, "Yep, take me back to the hotel," I had vans. So you had to kind of work with what you had available, and which were all these great fans, but you talk to them and kind of figure out who you had to work with. If they had a great car or an SUV, it's like hang for just a moment, come back, stand on the side of the stage, and let's get Maynard back to the hotel. That was the bottom line, and you would threaten them with their life, get him back in one piece, thank you, and I'll never forget you. So,
and I'm going to go on. 99.9% Ed would pick the best people, but occasionally, even if Ed didn't pick them, once I remember, and I know it wasn't your pick because it was the band director. I show up, I can't remember where it was. And it was like a Ford Pinto from like 1975. I don't care what it was, but there was like 4 people in this Pinto already. And so Maynard and I got his horns, and there's like now there's 4 people in the car, and they're going to get 6 people in the Pinto. And they're like, okay, well, we'll
Yeah.
put, and it was the car, it was like had French fries all over it and McDonald's wrappers. And it was, I'm like,
Yeah.
we can't go in this car. I'm like, man, I can't even put
Yeah,
Maynard
we're
in
not
the
going.
car. Right. It's like, if 3 of you get out, maybe we can deal with it. And it becomes a scene. And Maynard's kind of digging it because I'm losing my mind now. Long Island's coming out. I'm losing my mind. And I got back to Ed. I think we took a cab or something happened. I think but Ed was great. He goes, get him there in one piece. I remember my dad used to drive him. My dad loved driving Maynard. And we all drove, it was great. It was part of improvisation. Ed was improvising this before runner vans. It was all wonderful. Talk about hanging.
Yeah, there were, anytime we would play in Hartford, Connecticut, we'd have Arturo Pilar, Gary Bennett. These guys, these were aces. These were like friends of Maynard's that we could go to dinner with. Like Maynard didn't do a lot of road dinners with a lot of road people.
Thanksgiving at Arturo's house. Thanksgiving at Arturo's.
That's right.
Wait, what did you say
That's
Arturo's last name
and,
was?
Pilar. Arturo Pilar.
He's here. He's hanging with us.
Oh, good. He should be. He's our brother.
Chat. Yeah.
Make us some Thanksgiving. Come on. Where's your food? Man?
Yeah. Yeah. We had this we had like 2 days off near Hartford, and they would come with like an army of cars, mostly all Volvos. And right. And they picked us up at the hotel and took us to Arturo's house, and it was a bloody feast. It was amazing. But like, and that was very special. But when we would play up there, I could send Maynard with Arturo and Gary Bennett without me. They would just be backstage. As soon as Maynard would come off, we would do all of our pre-show, and then boom. And I knew that Maynard was taken care of by family, people that are our road family. They'll get him back to the hotel, get him in his room, and he would be taken care of. And with all the things going on the road, obviously Maynard is the main priority, was the main priority. And just getting him back and getting him secured was, a big load off of the anxiety of the show. So love Arturo, love Gary Bennett and all those guys.
Yeah. I just
Arturo says I'm here.
Well, I'm going to add, so Arturo actually opened his house. We were at Thanksgiving. He had Thanksgiving for us 1 year.
Right.
It was unbelievable. And I just looked in that corner of my eye. It's freaking me out. I had this in my Walt Johnson Maynard trumpet case for 25 years. This is freaky. And I just seen it on the corner of my desk. Ed will know what this is. Can you see it? Let's see. It's a tiny Ganesha. Which is Ganesha. Safe travel, right? When I traveled, it was on our tour bus. And we're talking about travel and a tour, and I look out of the corner of my eye. It's sitting on the edge of my desk. It's been my trumpet case for 25 years. I don't know why it's here, but it's here. Yeah. We're all together.
Remember, Maynard used to bring one about this tall and sit it on the dashboard of the bus,
on the front,
and we would have to plaster this thing down with duct tape. And then, he would sing his Ganesha song. Ganesha, Sharanam, Sharanam, Ganesha.
There he is.
That's right.
That's great.
Unbelievable.
We actually had another question, Carl, in relation to travel. Since we're talking about it, is they know that you've told this story before, but they'd love to have Ed's take on the train story in Italy.
Go ahead, my man.
All right. Well, we yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be good. I'm scared.
So we had a connection in Frankfurt. We were in Stroudsburg, going to Frankfurt, connection in Frankfurt, to go to Milan.
Milan.
And we had 50 minutes to do this, and we had like 28 pieces of gear, which was insane to begin with. And the station right before Frankfurt, the train was 8 minutes late, and Maynard and Carl were in the front car. Maynard had was in first class in seating in the car, and Carl was up with him, taking care of him, and I was with the band. And I told him, I said, okay, you know, at 8:52, this was like 8:52 at night. It was dark. You know, we'll pull into Frankfurt Station. When you get out on, you know, on the tarmac, just stand. We're 4 cars behind you. Turn to your right. We'll meet. You know, kind of thing. Well, the train was late, so the station right before Frankfurt, Carl and Maynard get out. The doors close. We're on the window because, yeah, at 8:52. So
Maynard was
you know, and we're, yeah. So I mean, Carl, I mean, basically, that's what they did. They got off the train. They're looking around. All of a sudden, the doors close behind them. The train starts pulling off, and the windows drop down because you know, all those trains, the sleeping cars are on the left side of the train. The aisles are on the right with the windows, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, I see Carl and Maynard on the platform. I'm like, you got off too early, and all I hear is Maynard go, no shit. So they were there on the train. So, I mean, at that point, basically, I had the band, and I didn't have a band leader or Carl. And so when we got to Milan, I didn't have time to even call Gabby and let her know that Carl and Maynard were in Frankfurt. So basically, we got the band and the equipment over to the train to go to Milan, and Gabby didn't book our or didn't have. It was a whole movie about our equipment that we ended up putting in 3 different sleeping cars where they had, you know, we had 4 people in each bunk, in 4 people in each car, 4 different bunks. But then we had, you know, all this equipment in each, and this train conductor was freaking out because we were bringing all this equipment on.
Yeah.
But we finally got him calmed down. The train started moving. We're going to Milan, but we still don't have Carl and Maynard. So once we get to Milan the next morning, and we had a show that evening. Where
not out of Milan. It was on the outskirts of Milan with Andrea Tofanelli. Yes. That's when we first met Andrea. That's the first time we met him, Andrea Tofanelli.
That's right. Now, did he pick you guys up and bring you out? How did you guys get out?
I wish he did. So it was before cell phones. So we're calling Gabby. Right. We're calling Linda Mertz in California. And, you know, we don't even have credit cards. You know, we have a couple things, but we don't have any, you know, card. So long story short is we slept. I'll never forget it. Maynard always had his emergency money. He had like 20 or 40 bucks on him, American, not much, but he decided we go to a bar somewhere across the front. We eat a little bit and we drink, and we sleep basically on a platform in a couple. You know, he's in the 70s. We sleep. We get the next train. You know, Linda says the next train's coming. Blah blah blah. Okay, we're on a train. Yep, in Frankfurt, we're on a train now, and we ran out of money because we spent it at the bar eating and drinking. And I'll never forget, this lady comes up to us. She sees I'm disheveled. Maynard was so cool during this time. I'm flipping out. Yeah. I'm banging on every window car. when you guys are passing me, and I pass out. I go down on all four, and I remember Maynard going, "Breathe, breathe, Carl." That was my scene. So Maynard was so nice to everybody. This lady, I think, recognized him as a jazz musician, and the cart came past us for food, and we couldn't order anything because we had no money. And the lady put down euro and bought us breakfast and coffee, and beautiful, just beautiful. We get to Milan, the car picks us up, but it wasn't Andrea. We're running to this gig, and we have a blowout.
That's right.
I wish it was Andrea. And the guy doesn't know how to change a tire. And thank God I was mechanical, so I'm changing this guy's tire. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Then we get to the gig, and now we're at the gig, and I think Ed's going to rip me apart. I'm like, and Ed just gives me a hug. He goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I think. Are we all right?" And you were just so cool with me, man. I felt so bad, but it was Andrea's gig. He was right. Andrea was there.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
He was the opening act with his band.
Yeah.
But that's where we first hooked up with him. Yeah.
And that in Italy,
that was the whole that whole little tour was a book within itself.
We were supposed to start at 8. We didn't start till 10 because Andrea, we all went to dinner. Remember?
Yeah.
The dinner, and we ate for like 2 hours.
Yeah, it was insane. We were sitting there ordering when the hit time, it's like 8 o'clock. And it's like, no, it's okay. No, don't worry. Bring some wine. Bring some more pasta. Yeah. But as we learned also too, as we very well knew, the whole Italian, Germany, you start pretty much on time.
Yeah.
Japan, you start on time. Italy, South America, whenever you get to it. Which is tough for, people like me. I'm trying to schedule.
Yeah.
But we learned to go with it.
I'm wrecked. This is killing me.
I haven't thought about that in years.
Oh, man.
We were on the train, and I hear this beating on the side, and I'm like, what in the hell is that? Oh my God, it's Carl. He's beating on the train.
Every window. I'm hitting every window. I'm jumping up, hitting every window. Yeah. I don't know what car you're in. I'm like, and I remember Maynard walking down the steps, like, and he looking around. And I see him. I'm like, "Man, we're in the wrong stop." And then whoop, the doors close. Like, 8:52.
Yeah,
it's 8:52. He goes,
yeah. Oh, but till I die, I will never forget him saying, "No shit." He got out too soon.
Oh my God.
And the whole band was on the train, and we were looking at each other like, oh my God, did this just happen?
Slow motion.
Yeah. We're going to Milan. And man, Carl.
Was it Descenza? Well, we were playing. Was it a little town out of Milan called Descenzia or something like that? Because I just ran to Andrea. Yeah, I ran to Andrea and I asked him about it. He said it was on the outskirts. Because remember, he took us to a restaurant. It was like a diner, right?
Yeah.
And it was like a mom and pop diner, and we ate like kings.
Kings. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. It's an insane meal. And then Andrea would come to London when we would do Ronnie Scott's, and he would like get a hotel in our hotel, a room in our hotel. He would be like there with us the whole week. Yeah. And he knew some great restaurants in London too, by the way, my friend. Yeah. So great. He's a great talent. I haven't talked to him in several years, but Andrea Tofinelli, one of the great European trumpet players.
We were talking about you. We were playing in Miami last year with T.Ë.T.I, with tribute to evolutionary trumpet icons. With Steve, we were playing at a trumpet conference, and Andrea was there. So I said, Andrea,
no kidding, really?
I'm like, Andrea, you're playing with me tonight. He goes, am I? Am I? I'm like, yes, you're playing tonight. And he came and played and slayed it. And it was, so he was, have you seen Ed? I'm like, yeah. You know, we went through the whole thing. About once a year, I talk to him on email. Great player.
Yeah.
The
Loved
relationship.
Andrea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big heart, beautiful, beautiful guy, an amazing trumpet player for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So we're getting close. Hit us with one more. And I got one more. Actually, let me hit Ed with one quick. What do you think about, talking about 25 years, you had a cast of characters throughout the band. You've seen many personnel come and go. You've seen a lot of different bands, the smaller high voltage band, the smaller Big Bop Nouveau band compared to the original band you joined in '82. What were your I know it's a hard question again, but what were your favorite personnel and what were your favorite bands throughout that 25 years? I know they were different with the smaller things and the bigger things. Does anything stick out that you'd say, man, you know? It's a hard question.
Yeah, one I can't really answer, and I'll tell you why. Is because as the bands evolved musically, the bands evolved with the personnel, and the dynamic of the music and the writing of the music for those individual bands at that time were my favorites. You know, the first band that I come on to was very special to me. Chris Brayman, Steve Wiest, Hobie Freeman, Alan Wise, Stan Mark in the trumpet section, the saxophone, Dennis Blasio, Daniel Jordan, who you know very well, Nelson Hill. You know, that was the saxophone section, the way it was spread out across the back. Matt Bissonette, Dave Mancini, Ron Pedley, the keyboard player. That was the first band I came on to. And, you know, and all those guys went on for brilliant careers. Pedley with Manilow for all these years. The Bissonette, you know, Matt's with Elton John has been for years. But outside of that particular core band that I was with, the very first band, was obviously very special to me. So I thought at that point in my mind, well, anything after this is not going to be, and once guys started moving in the bands, and then as the band would rotate and kind of find its slot together musically with each other, then that would become my favorite band. I was like, oh my God, you know, how can it get any better than this? Yeah. You know, and you see, you know, the cast of characters that came through the early bands, even before you, like those mid 80 band, late 80s as the band transitioned.
Alex Isles, all those cats.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Tim Reese, Rick Margitza, Wayne, Alex, you know, so many, and there's so many names that we're leaving out. That's why I don't want to, you know, start naming names really, because as we evolved into those different bands, you know, it seemed like they always evolved into my favorites. And so that's why it's a tough question, you know, and I must say the first band and the last band that we recorded with, you know, when we went into Tony Bennett's studio for a week after the Blue Note, and I had the opportunity to put together what I thought was a tremendous band, you know, to record that album with Wayne and Steve-O and Dennis and Stockton was and Stockton was the drummer and so instrumental in the mindset and keeping the recording session for 6 days in such a perpetual flow musically, not only with the band but with Maynard. He's a brilliant producer. He's a great drummer, as we all know, but he's also a brilliant producer. And Phil was the engineer with us that did all those great things with North Texas State. But that last band was very special, Lashaway, and So that's why it makes it a tough question, because I love so many of those bands as they evolved personnel wise, but they evolved musically. So
yeah. Oh, that's great, man. So the first and the last band, and I got to say, I've said this before on the feeds throughout our seasons, is one of the regrets. I don't have many regrets, but one of the regrets was you and Maynard calling me.
Yes.
To make the Blue Note and that record, and I just did one tour with Billy Joel's band, and we are getting ready to go to Europe.
I know.
And I remember Maynard saying, "And that's okay, man. There'll be other ones. Make your money." He said, "Make your money.
Go make
your money. You're making rock money. Forget the jazz money."
Yeah.
You said that,
exactly.
and then it didn't. Obviously, you did the record, and it was wonderful. But that's great. So the bookends were great. That's wonderful, man. The first band and the last band, that's great. Yeah, man.
But so many in between. So I mean, the first one was very memorable, and the last one.
Cool.
The last band, that last band was just incredible.
Yeah,
and as the first one was. But so many variations of that band that carried his name throughout the years was so great. Yeah, for sure.
Steven, we'll hit one or two more questions and we'll call it a night, because it's 11:30 and people are gotta go to work and make food, and gotta go fishing in the morning. You fishing?
Funny thing is we got the most people we've had on all stream this right now.
Of course,
it's been slowly growing, which is good. This is actually pretty interesting one, since
growing
you guys.
Too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's pandemic belly. There's been a lot of talk about Maynard tonight, so I think this question kind of sums it up. That's Lance. Lance is asking, I came to these streams because I was a fan of Billy's and of Carl's relationship, in the Billy band. Throughout the streams, I've learned a lot about Carl's relationship with the Maynard Ferguson band and those members within it. One of the things that I've noticed is people have such a sentimentality when they talk about this person. What would both of you guys say makes the difference in when somebody talks about this person as opposed to other musicians of the past that don't get that same type of emotional feeling? There's a mouthful, right?
Yeah. Carl, you want first shot at this?
I'll just make it simple and concise. Spiritually, emotionally, and sonically, if you've never heard Maynard sound, I'm sorry. But spiritually, sonically, energy, it was just his being and the way he played, and there's only one Maynard. There's only one Maynard. People, there's duplications, but there's only going to be one Maynard, and that guy is he just brought people together. He brought, great leaders, Joan Jett with Ed Sargent and Billy Joel with me. They're unbelievable leaders. They have a lot of traits that Maynard has, but one trait that Maynard has that no one else had was playing that B-flat trumpet like no one else played it before, and it just brought everybody together. That's my simple answer. Maybe I'm being paraphrasing, but what do you got, Ed?
He was not from this earth, the uniqueness of his personality fit so well with what he did in life, because he was put on this earth to play the B-flat trumpet. He was, in my opinion, and not only mine, but people from all walks of the music industry have always regarded Maynard, and many have said, Bud Herseth from the Chicago Symphony Orchestra said Maynard was the greatest brass player of our generation, of our lifetime.
He was.
I believe that. But if you ask Maynard that, he would be like, that's crazy. Listen to some early Dizzy, or listen to Arturo, listen to to Freddie Hubbard. He was so lovely and humble, and that's what made him the beautiful cat that he was. And he really understood how to be a band leader, and to be a band leader and encourage the best performance out of the people that you had on stage with you at the time.
Yep.
You know, and try to encourage those guys. Like, he was always careful not to look the new guys in the eye, you know, their first night on the band, but and he could be so aloof on stage and not miss a note that was played, but to give the new guys a sense of freedom and a sense of ease. And he understood what being a band leader was about. But off the stage, which is every guy that was on his band and on his bus knew him at a level that other people didn't. That was the beauty, to be able to see him walk on the bus in the morning when everybody else was maybe dark or tired, or their girlfriend broke up with him, or whatever bullshit was going on in life. Maynard would get on the bus. He would be the last one on the bus, unless there was a problem. And he would get on the bus, and, you know, he would bring such joy to the bus and get on and, you know, say hello to the guys in his band, you know, remind everybody how thankful we are to be able to be out here playing music and traveling around the world. Mm-hmm. And, you know, not going into an office and doing whatever, you know, those kind of people do. But yeah, how you doing, man? Yeah, everything good with you? How's your girl at home? You know, how's things? It was just his whole attitude about being on the road and about being a band leader that was infectious. And that's what everybody that was on his band had such a high reverence for him for. So
that's beautiful. Tour would start, and Ed and Maynard, I got to catch in front of the bus many times. I'm like, all right, here we go. We're got out of jail free. We're starting again. Come on, and be happy about it, and just be positive. It was infectious.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and then going back,
and we'd be going out for like eight or 9 weeks at a time. You know, 2 months, 2.5 months. Here we go. Yeah,
we're doing it again. We can't wait to do it again. And I'll never forget going back to the family life with Flo. You know, being his valet, he would come off the road, and if we were in the West Coast and we'd be driving to his house, if we were lucky enough, he was like a kid, combing his hair, brushing his teeth, making sure his eyebrows. I got to look good for my honey.
Yeah, absolutely. It was she would come to. We would play the Blackstone Hotel in Chicago at Joe Siegel's Jazz Showcase. We'd be there for a week at a time, and Flo would fly into Chicago. I would go get Godiva chocolates. I would get, you know, a dozen red roses, go over to the Conrad Hilton across the street, you know, across from Wabash Avenue, and get all these little specialty things for Maynard's room, because he would be like a kid. This was his his girlfriend coming to see him. And that's what, you know, made him such a prime example of what, you know, what a husband, you know, a road husband should be. You know, it's like Disney said, I've had 5,000 honeymoons. You know, why would I want to get divorced?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. What else you got? We'll hit one or two more questions and call it a night.
I think everybody's just kind of listening. We got a couple people. Great trumpet player Fernando Castillo is joining us, saying hello to you guys.
Fernando, Birdie.
Yep. Anthony.
What's up, brother?
Carabino. Anthony says hello. Wonderful stories, guys.
My Tony Carabino, drummer
from Long Island. My drummer.
Tony.
Drummer.
Yeah, man.
Woo.
Great drummer. Great drummer.
Yeah, great player.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was on the band with Chris Ishii and Halting and those guys. Yeah. Kick-ass drummer.
Yeah, great player. Mm-hmm. Wonderful cat.
Yeah, I think everybody else is just saying hello and how much they've enjoyed all the stories. They love hearing you guys laughing. It's a nice little escape from what our normal has become. So, which was the point of doing these Tuesday night hangs in the first place. So I'll actually say thank you to everybody in the chat for chiming in through the night. And
I got 2 questions before we call it. What are your, we've been on a Maynard kick and I love it. I'm going to hit you with 2 quick questions really quick, and you can say goodnight, Stephen, when we're ready. Challenges. The Maynard things is a Maynard thing. We love Joan. I love Billy. It's a totally different headspace. What are your challenges now with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, especially now coming up in the future with other bands like Aerosmith and you guys sharing the bill? What's your day-to-day like coming when this pandemic's over, and how is it different than what we dealt with of missing trains in Italy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly COVID-19 brought something into the planet that we'd never seen really before at this level. This year we had a big tour, a stadium tour out with Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison, that we had 30 stadiums. Live Nation took us into next year, and next June, we start in Nashville. We're to start in Nashville with all the stadium tours with the same bands. The last 3 Mondays, including this Monday, from Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, they brought about vaccines in various levels and various efficiency levels with regards to those vaccines, which brought about a light at the end of the tunnel. If we can get those into a level where we can get those in people's hands and get people vaccinated, and in terms of what they talk about herd immunity, this world will turn around. We will not live under the cloud that we've lived under for the last 9-10 months.
Yes, sir.
Life is going to come out on the other side. Live music will prevail. We will be back doing live shows. We will be back doing sooner rather than later. I have the utmost confidence that we will be back on the road, and live music will always prevail.
Cool.
It may be smaller venues at first, once things start opening up gradually, we may go into, the casino settings, the smaller soft seat theaters, 15, 16, 1,800 seat soft seat theaters. And then we will gradually move into the stadiums and things like that. As the world comes back around, it will all expand and open up. So I know that. I really believe it.
Nothing like live music and live interaction with people. It's going to happen.
It will never go away.
All right. Well, Stephen, I'll let you say a couple words, and I'm going to ask. I'll say a couple words and ask Ed one last question, and we'll say goodbye to the chat. So, do your thing, Steve-O.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys. Kevin Llewellyn just chimed in saying absolutely great show tonight. Always wonderful to hear all the Maynard stories. Thank you guys. Arturo says thank you as well. James, there's a bunch of people saying thank you. So I'll say thank you back for submitting your questions and for participating in the chat. Also to Ed for what's more than 2.5 hours on a conference with us right now. So it's been a lot of fun. And I will
Checks in the mail, Ed.
Yeah. You get a percentage of everything we get.
Unfortunately, it's negative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But speaking of which, if you guys do want to support the stream, you got all the information is up there in the top left-hand corner. I'll do my business. The merch table is up there in the top left, so to speak. So I'll say goodnight for the chat, and I'll let you have your last question, Carl. And Ed, if you can hang on until I give you the all clear at the end, we'll be all set.
You got it.
So,
thanks, guys.
You guys, obviously Thanksgiving is coming up. We all have a lot to be thankful for. We know that 2020 has been a trying time. This couldn't be more appropriate to have Ed here on a Tuesday night before Thanksgiving, because I am very thankful for my relationship with my brother and love you to death. And please keep an eye out again for Ed Sargent on Keeping the Beat with Dr. Julie Hill with University of Tennessee Martin, and also his guest artist series. And keep an eye out for him with Mrs. Joan Jett and the Black Hearts. And Ed, I love you, man. I wish I was spending Thanksgiving with you. And thank you for being here. And what excites you coming up in the future, man?
Every day, you know, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I love hearing these reports on CNBC and all of our news channels about the vaccines.
Yeah.
You know, COVID-19 was a terrible thing, but you know, the world is resilient. People as a whole are resilient. You know, there will always be live music. You know, we have to place our faith in God and hope. We always have hope that music will be back in our lives. Live music will be back in our lives soon, and I can't wait for that to happen. It's a pleasure to be on your show, Carl. I love you dearly. I've known you since you were a child. I know both of your parents, and Charlie was a dear soul to my heart, and I miss him like I miss my own father. And to be on your show is a pleasure. And Stephen, you do a marvelous job, and thank you for all that you do. And it was a pleasure to be here with you. And I love all the Maynard fans and the Joan fans that chimed in. And I wish everybody a happy and safe and healthy, prosperous Thanksgiving.
We'll leave on that note. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, baby.